Now take down this example. I want you all to try this out. We have an investment firm which purchases 3 stocks for 1 week trading purpose. Okay, it assesses the probability that the stocks will increase in value in the week is given by 0.8, 0.7 and 0.6 respectively. Now, what is the chance that there are some questions here? All the 3 stocks will increase. That means they are going to give you profit. Then at least 2 stocks will increase. And the third one is only 1 will increase. So there are 3 questions which you have to answer here. Find out the probability for all the stocks. If they increases, then at least 2, and the last one, at least only 1 of them will increase. Now, using the different functions which we have done till now, I would like you all to give a try here. We can take the stocks as A, B, and C as 3 different events. Let us see A as an event where the first stock is increasing, then B for the second stock, and C as the event that the third stock will increase. Okay, so using these 3 events, please give a try to solve the problem. And we also have the probabilities given to us. So PA is given as, if I take A as the first stock, for the first stock, it will be like PA will be 0.8, PB will be 0.7, PC will be 0.6. And remember, these are all your independent events because they are not depending on each other. So the formula which you are going to use, for the first one, you have to consider the type of event as well. And once you get some answers, I want you all to post it in the chat. I'll wait for your answers. Those who have not got the pen and paper and trying it, please try it out, because this will be the last example which I'll be taking on combinations. Okay. Anyone? It is very simple, please. The first one at least. Now, if you look at the question, they have said all 3 stocks will increase. That means we are going to use and there. So what is the, you can say, property which I'll be using, or the formula which I'll be using whenever we have A and B and C, in this case 3. So we have to use the multiplication formula which is there. So the first answer has been given by Advait. It's 0.336. Any other answer? Anyone else? Okay, then Advait, you're right. It is 0.336. And as I told you, because these are 3 independent events, and we are looking at the probability that all 3 are going to increase. And we also have the probabilities given to us. If we take A, B, C as the 3 events, A. Let us see the solution for the first one. Okay, so I have taken A as the event that the value of the first stock increases. Similarly for B and for C. So these are my three events for three stocks. Okay. Now, if I want to say that all three are going to increase, then the simplest formula for this is the multiplication formula. So PA into PB into PC will give me the answer. Okay. So that will be 0.8 multiplied by 0.7 and multiplied by 0.6. That is going to give me the final answer for the first question, where we want to find out the probability that all the three stocks are going to increase. Clear? Now, one more thing we are going to do here is we are also going to find out the P bars, that is, it will not increase. So PA bar, you can write 1 minus 0.8. Now, this is going to be used specially for the second question. So 1 minus 0.8, that gives me PA bar. That means A is not going to increase. The first stock is not going to increase. The probability is 0.2. Similarly, for the second stock, it is 0.3. And for the third stock, it is 0.4. Now, this is the first answer where we have probability of A and B and C equal to PA multiplied by PB multiplied by PC. That gives you 0.336. Okay, for the second one, where we are going to find out the probability that at least two stocks will increase. That means one of the stocks, either it can be A, B, or C. One of them is not going to increase. The other two are going to increase. Now, in this case, we need to make use of the A, say A bar, PA bar, or PB bar and PC bar. Fine? And because we have three different, you can say, events that can occur, there'll be a combination. So there can be an OR condition here. So we can say that A and B increases, whereas C does not increase. That can be one. Or A and C increases, B does not increase. Or you can say A does not increase, B and C increases. Okay. So this can be three different, combinations, which is possible for the second question. Now, to solve this problem, if you have done it, if anyone has done it, can share the answer, or I'll just go ahead and show you the solution. Anyone? I'll just tell you the formula which can be used here. We can have the probability of A and B and C bar. Then we are going to make use of OR there. So OR PA and B bar and C, or we can have P into bracket A bar and B and C. Okay, plus you can see all and will be there. So P plus P, A and B and C. That is the formula which I'll be using. There is something in the chat. Saurabh has given me the answer as 0.452. Okay, Saurabh, this is for the second one. Okay, any other answer? Saurabh, it is not 0.452. Good try. Anyone else? Okay, let me show you how I'll be going about doing this. At least I'll show you the formula. You can try and do the calculation. Advait is giving me 0.14. No, Advait, it is not 0.14 either. There's one more answer, 2.552. No, it won't be. Anyone else? Okay, let me share the formula. I hope once you understand the formula, you might be able to do it. Okay, so let us come back here. Now, as we say, we have to find out the probability that at least two stocks is going to increase. There's one more answer here, 0.452. No. Okay, let us see the formula first. Now, when we say that at least two of them is going to increase, least, okay? Lots of answers. Again, there's something in chat. Advaith is giving 2.52. No, 0.52 is not the answer. Again, Advaith. Let me share the answers with you, or the formula at least. Now, this can be written as this. Okay. Now, this is what the formula will look like. So we have P into square bracket. You can put, because only two of them are going to, at least two are going to increase. So we have P, A and B and C bar. Now C bar is that C is not going to increase, right? Then we have the OR condition here, or the other combination where A and B is increasing, but A and C are going to increase where B is not going to increase. Similarly, we have the third combination, and plus we have an option where all three are going to increase. Now, because they have used the word at least, that means even three can increase. And that is the reason at the end, we can see we have plus P, A and B and C. Okay. Now you can use this formula here. Is this formula okay? Just check it out. Because we are using and here, we are going to use the multiplication formula. Now using this formula, I would like you all to do the calculation. And please remember, these are all independent events. Okay. And we have already found out this value of A and B and C, which is coming to 0.336. So I'm directly putting this 0.336 here, and you can do the calculation further. There are two answers in the chat. This says 0.788. Shonit is right. Kushal Wagh is also right. That is the answer. 0.788 is the answer. Okay. So once you do the calculation, let's see the answer here. Multiply this whole thing, and we already have the values of PA and PA bar as well. This gives you 0.788. Okay, now based on the same concept, can we solve the third one? The third one says that we have to find the probability that only one will increase. Only one, that is, the word at least is not there here. So please remember the last part where we had written P plus PA and B and C will not be considered in the third question. Okay, so this is not going to be there. Whereas you can consider writing this probability up to the three different combinations. So if you have done it, you can share the answer. Okay, the last answer is given by Kushal is 0.188. That is the answer. Anyone else? 0.188. See, probability is very interesting, provided you take interest in it, of course, and see that your basic formulas, which you have gone through in the previous chapters or in the previous sessions, that is perfectly mucked up, or at least you understand how to use those formulas. Only then you will be able to solve different probability questions. Okay, Kushal, that's the right answer. 0.188 is the right answer. I'll just share the answer with you all. So here you'll be writing the probability that only one will increase. That means we have A and B bar. That is, B is not going to increase. C is not going to increase here. Now we have the OR here. So this is an OR condition. So here B is increasing, whereas A and C are not going to increase. Or we have C is going to increase and A and B not going to increase. So this can be written like this. For OR, you remember, we use plus. And for AND, we are going to make use of multiplication. So this whole thing will look like this. Okay. And the final answer will be this. So 0.188 is your final answer, where the probability is that only one of the stock is going to increase. Okay. I hope you have understood this problem which we have solved here, and how to make use of the formulas based on the words like only, then at least, at most. You know, these are some words which makes huge difference while solving the problem. Now, this is up to the basic probability problems which we have done. Now, let us go ahead and see probability distribution. What do you mean by probability distribution? We'll see some terms first, some definitions, which we should know before actually moving on to the different types of distributions under probability. So I want you all to note down some definitions or some words which I'll be using throughout this particular session. Okay. Now, the first word or the keyword which we can say is a random variable. Okay. What is a random variable here? A variable whose value is determined by the outcome of a random experiment. Okay. Simply take an example of any experiment, like tossing of a coin is an experiment. Okay. So whether we are going to get head or tail, you know, it indicates that it's a random variable. Right? So this definition is very simple. This is one of the definitions. So you might, you know, in the problems, they might ask you something where such keywords are given to you. And if you do not know the meaning of that, it will be difficult for you to solve the problem. Then there's a variety of random variable. The first one is your continuous random variable. Okay. Now, if a random variable takes all the values in a certain interval, then it is a continuous random variable. Now, for example, if let us say the height, or you can say the weight, okay, they are increasing in a particular interval. If the values are going to increase, or your height variable is going to take all the possible values in a particular interval, then it is continuous random variable. We can also have some other examples as well. Okay. So, for example, your weight, even weight can be considered as a random, continuous random variable. And the third one is your discrete random variable. Okay, if a random variable takes on only particular numerical values. Okay, particular numerical values can be like simple integer values, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. These are your numerical values. Okay, it is called to be or said to be a discrete random variable. We can also write that, now suppose let us say a variable, say x, is assuming values like x1, small x1, x2, x3 up to xn. Okay, and the probability is given by say px1, px2, and so on. If the total of all this probability, that is px1 plus px2 up to pxn, if it is equal to 1, then we say that x is a discrete random variable. Clear? Usually, if you know, whenever we have till now, whatever solutions we have found out, even whether it was a tossing of a coin or some other experiment, you know, I told you the total probability of that particular event, whether that event is going to occur or it's not going to occur. If I take, if I say the head is going to occur, if it is not going to occur, that means it is 1 minus 1 by 2, because the total is always 1. So even that can be considered as a discrete random variable. Clear? Then we have another definition, which is for your mathematical expectation or expected value, which is written as E into bracket x. Now, if x is a discrete random variable, assuming the values of x1, x2, and up to xn, with their probabilities given as px1, px2, then the mathematical expectation or the expected value of x can be defined as ex equal to x1 into px1 plus x2 into px2 and so on. Or we can also just use the summation sign where the value of I begins with 1, goes up to n, and the product of xi into probability of xi. Okay, so this gives you, actually it gives you the expected value of a discrete random variable. These formulas should be known when we are solving it. Now, if it is also a value on average, that takes, that's why it's also known as arithmetic mean, or you can just call it as simple mean as well. Clear? Now, we also have variance, the variance formula. So the arithmetic mean can be written as, x bar as well. So x bar, it's not like the previous one where we had a bar. A bar was, in the previous example, it was not a. Here x bar indicates arithmetic mean. Okay. Now the variance formula can be written using the formula here. The variable which we use is sigma square of x is given by e into bracket x square minus ex the bracket square. So there's two different things. Okay. So variance plus if I want to find the standard deviation, it will be just the square root of the variance. Okay, that is your sigma. Sigma is standard deviation, and sigma square is your variance. Now, there's one more thing which you should be aware of, that is central tendency. So let us see that as well, the definition. So for any data, there is a tendency to concentrate about a particular value, called as central tendency. That means if you're plotting a graph, with all the values which has occurred on the graph, you'll find that some of the points, or many of the points are, gathering or distributed in a particular region only, or they have concentrated in a particular region. And that region itself is known as your central tendency region. And the value which we find out is known as your measure of central tendency, or you can also call it as average. In simple terms, you can make use of the words like average, which is, or mean, simple mean also, we can use this. Okay, so arithmetic mean or simple mean or average means the same. This can be written if we have the experiment done for n observation, then we can write the central tendency as this: x bar equal to summation sign x into divided by capital N. And the same thing can be represented if the frequency distribution is given to you, then this formula can be written as summation fx in divided by n, where your n is equal to the sum of all the frequency. Okay, the frequency distribution. This is specially used when we have been provided with frequencies and not probabilities. The first formula is used when we are provided with probability observations. Clear? I hope you are noting down these formulas, or at least taking the screenshots. Now, mean is you can say a single figure which represents the whole entire data set. Okay, if I say the mean of a particular data set is, say, 10, that means all the values are, you can say, concentrating towards 10. Okay, and when I say the standard deviation is there, let us say 5 is a standard deviation. That means the value, the mean is 10. That means plus or minus 5 is where the values are going to range between. So it can be like, plus 5, mean will be 10. And if you add plus 5 to 10, that will be 15. So all my values will be between the range 5 to 15, where my mean is 10. Okay, so standard deviation actually gives you the, it tells you how the values are scattered in my graph or in my chart or in my experiment. Okay, that is a formula for finding out the standard deviation, which can be written like this: So note down this formula. Sigma equal to square root of 1 by n, and the summation sign, sum of x minus x bar bracket square. What is x bar here? X bar is your mean. Okay, this is going to give me the standard deviation, and the same value, if I want to find out the variance, I can just write sigma square. That will give me the variance for that particular data set, or for that experiment, you can call it. And if we have the frequencies given to us, then the same formula can be changed and written like this. Both the formulas are important, note it down. Okay, we'll understand this better when we actually solve some problems later on. Let us go ahead. The next definition is on probability distribution. Now this is your variance, as I told, sigma square can be used here. Now what is a probability distribution? Now the probability distribution, as per the definition, for a discrete random variable is a mutually exclusive listing. Yes, Masood has raised his hand. I'll stop here. And Masood, what's the question?
Sir, I'm sorry, I did that by mistake, sir.
By mistake, okay, Masood.
Sorry,
So that means you're active there somewhere. Let us continue. So if you call what is a probability distribution, we can say that for a given variable, or for a given random variable, or discrete random variable, where the values are been, you can say, scattered and plotted. If you have seen the graph of normal distribution, you'll find a bell curve. There's a bell curve, and where the curve is having the peak, that is my mean. That is where my mean lies. Okay. So when we do normal, there are three types of distribution which we are going to learn. The first one is your binomial distribution. Okay, then we have the Poisson distribution and the normal distribution. Under normal distribution, we also have a standard normal distribution, which we'll be learning, and we'll see the characteristics actually by using a graph. Okay. Now, in this example, if I say, the definition is very much clear here. And if I have a distribution which is based on previous experiment, or you can say exercises which is done, it is known as your theoretical distribution. Okay, or also a probability distribution. If frequencies are given to you, we can convert that frequencies into probabilities, and then we can use it in my formulas or different types of, you can say, theories which are given under probability. Okay, for this probability distribution, if I take an example of a coin, a coin, if it is tossed, let us say not a single coin, but 3 coins, if I toss it, for the first coin, there are only 2 events that can occur. Either it will be head or it will be tail, right? So head and tails, if there are 3 such coins which are tossed, so that becomes an experiment. And what will be the probability that a head will occur? Okay, what will be the probability that a head will occur? 1 head will occur, 2 heads will occur, 3 heads will occur. So there are different options available here. No heads, we can say there are no heads, that means all are tails. Or there is only 1 head. Or there are 2 heads and there are all the 3 are heads. So if you look at this values of x, where x is moving from 0, 1, 2, and 3, that is the maximum value for 3 coins. And we are going to get the probability as, if I say P0, that means no head is going to occur. That will be 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2. So that is nothing but 1 upon 8. Okay. Similarly, I can do the calculation for 1 head. If I say 1 head is going to occur, so it will be like, there can be, whether it is occurring for the first coin or the second coin or the third coin. So here we have OR condition. So we can have, for x equal to 1, my formula will be like, PHTT plus P into bracket THT. That means my second coin is having head, plus P into bracket TTH. Okay, so there are 3 different options available. Possibilities are there. So I can make use of this formula. So again, what will happen is I'll get 1 by 8 plus 1 by 8 plus 1 by 8. So that is going to be 3 by 8, right? So like this, I can come up with a different distribution or different probabilities and use in my function. The function will be like, Px, if I want to use x as a variable. So I can come up with a mass function of probability as well. Okay, so we will see that function as well when we go ahead. I hope it's making sense here. There are 3 properties that I told you will be making use of. The first one will be the binomial distribution, the Poisson distribution, and the normal distribution. Your Poisson distribution is very important because we are going to use this distribution for Q theories as well. In my, you can say next unit, or in fact in this unit itself, we have Q theory where Poisson distribution and normal distribution will be used frequently. Okay, so understanding these types of distribution is very important. Now let us understand the first one, that is your binomial distribution. As the name indicates, binomial means any experiment where only 2 possible outcomes are there. That means, for example, which I took, the tossing of a coin. We know that either head will occur or tails is going to occur. So this is a part of your binomial distribution. So such type of experiment where only 2 possible outcomes are there is nothing but your binomial distribution. And the experiment is also known as your Bernoulli trial. Bernoulli, B-E-R-N-O-U-L-L-I. Okay. Let us look at the binomial distribution first. And I want you all to note down the formula for this. And we'll take one example if time permits today itself. Okay. So if we consider an experiment with only 2 possible outcomes, that is tails and heads and tails, or you can call it as success and failure. Okay, your success here, if I take that as probability P and a failure as probability Q, we know that P plus Q is always equal to 1, right? This is known to every one of you. Now, taking the example of a coin, what will be the probability that I'll get head? Let us call head as success and tail as a failure. So what will be P? P will be 1 by 2, right? So P will be 1 by 2 and Q will be 1 minus 1 by 2. That is going to be again 1 by 2. So both are 1 by 2, 1 by 2. Now let us say that I have multiple, you can say, experiments on the same coin. So I am going to have n such experiments or trials of tossing the coin. And what will be the probability that I get a successful trial, that is I get P equal, or I get head for R number of times. Okay, so using that, so now consider n such independent trials and also let R equal to number of success in n trials. Now for this, the formula which we are going to use for PR, that is the probability that I get R successes in n number of experiments or n number of trials, can be given by PR equal to, now this is the combination of C which we are using, NCR, that's if you remember the combination formula, you have to replace that there, P raised to R and Q raised to N minus R. Now this value of R is going to move from 0 to N. Okay. And this is your binomial probability distribution. For different experiments, different n number of experiments, you can say, what is the answers which I am getting, or what is the probability which I am getting Let us say for P0, what is the answer? Take that answer, plot it on the graph. For P1, what is the answer? Plot it on the graph and so on. Now, when you construct this graph, okay, you'll get a different shape altogether. And the mean for this particular distribution will lie in the center. You can say either you get a bell curve or you might get some different type of a curve. You can easily find out the central tendency, okay, through this experiments, n number of experiments which are conducted. Now, there are some formulas for binomial distribution. Note down this as well. Now, your distribution can be written as B into bracket n comma P comma R. So if you are supposed to find out the binomial probability distribution, you'll be writing the formula or you'll be denoting it by B into bracket, capital B into bracket, N comma P comma R, where your N and P are your parameters of your distribution. Okay, there are two more formulas which I want you all to note it down and then we'll stop. Okay. If suppose there are three conditions which I have given here. The first one, probably that there will be success at most. The keyword at most is important here. R times. That is, there will be 1 or 2 or 3 or R successes in n trial. Can be written like this. We have P0 plus P1 up to PR. And we can expand this formula further and write the formula like this. Okay. Now this is because of the keyword at most. So we start with P0 and go up to PR. And if I change this same question, instead of at most, if I write at least, okay, then what will happen? The formula will change and I'll have, instead of moving from P0 to PR, I'll start from PR and move up to PN. And you can extend the formula and rewrite this formula like this. Okay? Please note down both the formulas. Now, in case of binomial distribution, your expected value, that is your mean, is given by NP, that is N multiplied by P, that is your mean. Note down this as well. So mean is given by the formula N into P, and the variance is given by the formula N into P into Q. And the standard deviation will be square root of NPQ. Okay, we have very less time remaining. This is the last slide for today. Note down each and every formula. When we come next, we will take some example based on binomial distribution. Okay.